Dr. Elena Cherian had been stationed on the Pluto monitoring outpost for 3 years now. Most of her colleagues considered it a punishment assignment, the furthest human outpost from Earth, staffed by a skeleton crew of 4 scientists and an AI maintenance system. Elena saw it differently. Here, on the very edge of humanity's reach, she could listen to the universe without interference. Her specialty was deep space signal analysis, filtering the cosmic background for patterns that might indicate intelligent origin. For 3 years, she found nothing but the elegant mathematics of pulsars and the random noise of stellar birth and death. That changed at 3:47 station time. Elena jolted awake as the station's alarm blared through her small sleeping quarters. She fumbled for her glasses, squinting at the alert on her tablet. The system had detected a massive spike in directed radio signals originating from the Kuiper Belt's outer edge, well beyond any known human probe or satellite. "This better not be another software glitch," she muttered, pulling on her station jumpsuit and making her way to the monitoring hub. The monitoring hub's main screen displayed a cascading waterfall of signal data, organized by frequency and intensity. Even before reaching her station, Elena knew this was no glitch. The patterns showed clear modulation, information being deliberately transmitted. "Computer, isolate primary signal clusters and begin translation protocols," she ordered, her fingers already flying across the workstation interface. "Wake the rest of the team." As the computer worked, Elena manually adjusted the deep space array, focusing all available receivers on the signal source. What she saw next made her gasp. Not one ship, but hundreds, perhaps thousands, moving in precise formation toward the solar system. Commander Liu arrived first, his face still creased from sleep. "Tell me it's not the Russians or Chinese testing new stealth tech," he said. Elena shook her head. "Sir, these signals are coming from beyond Neptune's orbit. And they're not human." By the time the rest of the crew assembled, Elena had managed to isolate several discrete transmission patterns. The translation matrix struggled with the alien syntax, but certain word clusters appeared with alarming frequency. Hurricane class, containment protocols, isolation requirements. She read aloud as the translations appeared. "They keep referencing something called the Galactic Concord and debating containment strategies." "Containment of what?" asked Dr. Patel, the station's xenobiologist who had, until now, had nothing alien to study. Elena's face went pale as more translations filled the screen. "Us, they're talking about containing us." The next 12 hours passed in a blur of frantic activity. The Pluto station established a quantum entanglement link with Earth's Unified Defense Command, transmitting all data in real time. Elena worked without breaks, piecing together the alien classification system from intercepted communications. "They categorized us as Hurricane class," she explained to the grim-faced military officers now crowding her holographic display. "From what I can gather, it's their highest threat designation for emerging civilizations." Admiral Chen frowned. "Because of our weapon systems." "No, sir. Because of our rate of development." Elena displayed a comparative chart she'd assembled. "These aliens measure species development across standardized metrics: time from agriculture to spaceflight, rate of technological iteration, adaptability to new concepts. We're off their charts in every category. They're not afraid of our weapons," she continued. "They're terrified of our potential. Their records show previous hurricane-class species either self-destructed or had to be forcibly contained. Their standard protocol is complete isolation of the species' home system." The final translated transmission made Earth's options painfully clear. Containment fleet mobilized. Hurricane class must not be allowed to spread beyond their solar system. First contact had arrived, and the aliens were running scared. Ambassador Zilvac stood before the Concord Fleet Council, his scales shifting through shades of blue and gray, a visible display of the inner conflict he couldn't hide from his peers. 6 centuries of diplomatic service had earned him the right to speak, but what he proposed bordered on heresy. The containment protocol must be preceded by direct assessment, he argued, his voice modulator adjusting to Project Calm authority. We have no confirmed hostile action from this species. Fleet Commander Vaxmora's tendrils twitched with irritation. The data is conclusive, Ambassador. They progressed from primitive combustion engines to rudimentary space travel in less than a century. The Hurricane-class designation requires no further verification. With respect, Commander, I have studied every first contact scenario in our archives. Not once have we contained a species without direct observation. Zilvax gestured to the holographic display of Earth. If we isolate them without contact, we create an enemy guaranteed to break that isolation eventually. After 3 days of heated debate, the Council reached an unprecedented compromise. One small diplomatic vessel would approach Earth. Ambassador Zilvax would lead the mission with a limited team of cultural specialists and scientists. Their mandate: determine if containment alone would be sufficient, or if more extreme measures might be required. This may end your career, his aide Kelter warned as they boarded the sleek diplomatic craft. Zilvax adjusted his ceremonial robes. If I'm wrong, it may end considerably more than that. The small vessel broke from the main fleet, accelerating toward the inner solar system. The crew, selected from species with the most flexible psychology, underwent intensive briefings on human history gleaned from intercepted broadcasts. What they learned did nothing to ease their anxiety. They poisoned their own atmosphere for centuries before attempting to fix it, the ecological specialist noted, yet somehow didn't collapse their civilization in the process. Their dominant entertainment consists of simulated scenarios that never occurred, added the cultural analyst, bewildered. They deliberately expose themselves to fictional emotional stimuli. When Earth finally appeared on their view screens, the crew fell silent. The blue-green world, wrapped in swirling cloud patterns, looked deceptively peaceful. Their arrival in Earth orbit triggered what the crew expected to be panic and military mobilization. Instead, they detected thousands of transmission signals directed at their ship, not weapons targeting but broadcast messages in dozens of languages attempting to establish communication. Against protocol, Zilvax authorized a response and announced their intention to land. The designated coordinates in a region called Switzerland were accepted by Earth authorities with surprising speed. What greeted them upon landing defied all predictions. Thousands of humans lined the designated arrival area, not in military formation, but in seemingly chaotic clusters. Many held colorful signs with welcomes written in approximations of Concord standard script. Some played musical instruments. Children sat on parents' shoulders to get a better view. They're not afraid, Kelter whispered in disbelief. Zilvax stepped onto Earth soil, the first Concord citizen to make direct contact with a Hurricane-class species. The human delegation that approached them wore no protective gear, displayed no weapons. They smiled, a facial contortion that the briefing had identified as a sign of positive emotion, not aggression. During the formal reception in Geneva, Zilvax maintained rigorous diplomatic protocol while his team collected data on human behavior, technology, and cultural markers. The true shock came during casual conversation with a junior human diplomat named Carlos Mendez. Of course, we developed rather slowly compared to what we might have achieved, Mendez remarked, sipping a beverage the humans called champagne. 2 world wars set us back decades. You achieved nuclear fission just 6 years after discovering the neutron, Zilvax asked, his voice modulator failing to hide his horror. Mendez nodded proudly. And we reached the moon just 66 years after our first airplane flight. Imagine what we could have accomplished without all the conflicts slowing us down. That night, Zilvax encrypted his preliminary report with the highest security clearance. The Hurricane-class designation, he explained, had been dangerously conservative. Welcome to the Smithsonian Museum of Technological Innovation, the tour guide announced cheerfully. Her name badge identified her as Sophia Williams, and her enthusiasm was palpable as she led the alien delegation through the entrance hall. We've prepared a special chronological exhibition to showcase humanity's journey from the Industrial Revolution to the present day. Ambassador Zilvax and his team followed, their environmental suits subtly monitoring Earth's atmosphere while translating the constant barrage of human speech. 4 days into their mission, the delegation had reluctantly accepted Earth's invitation for a cultural exchange program. The Concord scientists insisted it would provide crucial data. None of them were prepared for what they encountered. This section covers the early 20th century, Sophia explained, gesturing toward a collection of antiquated machinery. Particularly interesting is how global conflicts accelerated our development timeline. A holographic display activated, showing the progression from the Wright brothers' first flight in 1903 to the jet engines of the 1940s. We went from basic wooden aircraft to breaking the sound barrier in less than 50 years, she noted with pride. Scientist adjunct Trelvok involuntarily emitted a distress pheromone, causing the other delegates to shift uncomfortably. In Concord history, such technological leaps typically required centuries, not decades. Is this acceleration considered normal? Zilvax asked carefully. Sophia laughed. For humans, absolutely. Wait until you see the computing section. That's where things really took off. As they moved through the exhibits, the aliens' discomfort grew visibly. The computer history display showed room-sized ENIAC machines from the 1940s, transitioning to personal computers in the 1980s, smartphones in the early 2000s, and finally to the neural interface prototypes of the current era. Your species developed quantum computing just 15 years after achieving basic artificial intelligence. Science Director Mevlok asked, his appendages trembling slightly as he studied the timeline. Yes, though many consider that timeline disappointing. Sophia replied. There were hopes we'd crack it sooner. Ambassador Zilvax discreetly activated his medical stabilizer as his circulatory systems struggled to process the stress hormones flooding his system. The pattern was unmistakable and terrifying. What the Concord considered natural developmental plateaus, humans treated as temporary obstacles to be overcome immediately. After lunch, a tense affair where the aliens politely declined Earth cuisine in favor of their own nutritional supplements, the delegation visited Massachusetts Institute of Technology. The university's premier research laboratory had been selected to showcase humanity's current scientific frontiers. Dr. Aisha Patel, a young fusion researcher with bright eyes and quick movements that startled the delegates, presented her team's work with unchecked enthusiasm. We've achieved a sustained reaction at nearly break-even energy levels, she explained, manipulating a holographic representation of their tokamak design. With our new superconducting materials, we're projecting practical fusion power within 5 years, 10 at the outside, if we hit unexpected roadblocks. Science Director Mevlok's translator temporarily malfunctioned, overwhelmed by his rapid stress vocalization. When the system recovered, he asked, "Your species has been researching fusion energy for how long?" "Seriously, about 70 years, Dr. Patel replied. Though the real breakthroughs came in the last decade when we stopped approaching it conventionally. She displayed the mathematical models underpinning their approach, equations that made Mevlok freeze in place. The approach was elegant, intuitive, and entirely different from the Concord's millennium of fusion research. It also looked like it would work. As the demonstration concluded, a small human child broke away from a student group touring the facility. The boy, no more than 10 Earth years old, approached Zilvax with a tablet device. "Excuse me," he said, looking up at the towering alien diplomat. "My science project is about your ship's propulsion system. I've been watching it in orbit, and I think I figured out how it works." He held up the tablet displaying surprisingly accurate schematics. "Is this right? The gravitational field manipulation seems inefficient. Couldn't you modify the particle alignment to reduce the energy requirements?" Ambassador Zilvax stared at the child's drawings, recognizing a fundamental insight that had eluded Concord engineers for generations. Without waiting for an answer, he excused himself and his delegation, retreating to their temporary embassy to compose an emergency transmission to the containment fleet. Unlike his colleagues, scientist adjunct Trelvok found himself drawn to human creativity rather than frightened by it. While the delegation huddled in their embassy quarters debating containment strategies, Trelvok slipped away to the Cultural Exchange Center established in downtown Geneva. The center had become his sanctuary over the past week. Here, humans and aliens could interact informally, sharing art, music, and scientific concepts in a relaxed setting. For most of the Concord delegates, it was a duty assignment to be endured. For Trelvok, it had become an addiction. "You came back." Dr. Maya Rodriguez beamed as he entered the music appreciation room. The xenomusicologist had been introducing him to Earth's diverse musical traditions. Today's selection, jazz improvisations, left the other aliens bewildered and unsettled by its deliberate unpredictability. Trelvok's sensory membranes vibrated with pleasure as the saxophone solo filled the chamber. "This musician, he changes the mathematical structure as he proceeds," he observed. "There is no fixed pattern." "That's the beauty of improvisation," Maya explained. John Coltrane was feeling the music, responding to it in real time, creating something new with each performance. This concept, creating without a template, was revolutionary to Trelvok. Concord artistic traditions emphasized perfect replication of established patterns, with innovation occurring only through minor, authorized variations over centuries. After the session, Trelvok found himself sharing more than he should. "Your approach to physics reminds me of this music," he told Maya as they discussed theoretical paradigms. "My people developed quantum mechanics through 17 generations of incremental advancements. Your species made the leap from classical to quantum understanding in a single lifetime." Maya's colleague, physicist Dr. James Chen, joined their conversation, his curiosity piqued. "Our understanding is still rudimentary compared to what your civilization must have achieved," he said. "For instance, we still struggle with unified field applications for propulsion systems." A forbidden thrill coursed through Trelvok. The exchange guidelines strictly prohibited sharing advanced technical knowledge. Yet these humans spoke his intellectual language, approached problems with refreshing originality, and offered artistic experiences that made his standard Concord existence seem colorless by comparison. "Perhaps," he said, lowering his voice, "I could show you some basic principles. A cultural exchange, you might say, your music for my physics." 3 days later, Trelvok's quarters were raided by Concord security officers. They found him in violation of multiple protocols, having shared technical specifications for the Concord's quantum communication system with Dr. Chen in exchange for a comprehensive library of Earth music. "You have compromised our entire mission," Ambassador Zilvac said gravely as Trelvok was processed for immediate deportation. The human was a physicist, not merely a musician. "They would have figured it out anyway," Trelvok replied without remorse. "They're intuitive leaps. You don't understand how they think. Their minds aren't constrained by established pathways." "And that," Zilvac said, "is precisely what terrifies us." Trelvok was on the last shuttle back to the containment fleet when the message came through from Earth. 23 days after his indiscretion, human scientists had not only reverse-engineered the Concord's quantum communication system, but had enhanced its bandwidth by 340% through a novel application of entanglement principles. Fleet Commander Vax Morris stared at the incoming transmission in stunned silence. The humans had sent complete technical specifications for their improvements, transmitted via the Concord's own proprietary technology, but significantly enhanced. The message was cordial, even friendly, offering these advancements in the spirit of cooperation and mutual growth. The implications were staggering. A carefully guarded technology that represented 3 centuries of Concord development had been not only decoded but improved upon in less than a month. Their note says they've identified 17 other potential improvements, Vax Morris communications officer reported. They're offering to share all of them freely, no conditions attached. The commander's appendages twitched nervously. The elaborate containment strategy, designed to isolate a dangerous species according to standard protocols, suddenly seemed as outdated as containing a gas with a net. 8-year-old Sofia Martinez bounced excitedly in the line of third graders waiting to enter the alien embassy. Her school had won the global lottery for a special educational tour, and Sofia had barely slept last night in anticipation. Her tablet, loaded with the school's custom-designed Xenoscience Explorer app, was clutched tightly in her small hands. "Remember," Ms. Patterson reminded the class, "no sudden movements, no loud noises, and absolutely no unauthorized scanning or recording." Sofia nodded solemnly. She had memorized all the first contact protocols they'd studied in their special curriculum. Still, when they actually entered the climate-controlled embassy atrium and saw real aliens, her academic composure crumbled into wide-eyed wonder. Ambassador Zilvax, now 4 weeks into what had become an unplanned extended diplomatic mission, greeted the children personally. Despite the Concord High Command's growing concern about human unpredictability, he had insisted that educational outreach continue. Understanding this hurricane-class species was crucial, particularly their development methods. "We welcome our young human visitors," he announced, his translator converting his harmonic speech into child-friendly English. "Today you will learn about Concord technology and cultural practices appropriate for educational purposes." The tour proceeded smoothly through carefully sanitized exhibits. The children asked startlingly insightful questions that the cultural liaison struggled to answer in sufficiently simplified terms. Then came the technology demonstration room. Sofia Martinez, fascinated by a holographic display of the Concord communication relay, instinctively pulled out her tablet. The Xenoscience Explorer app had an augmented reality feature designed to identify technological components by their electromagnetic signatures. Her teacher used it in science class all the time. It was a learning tool, not a scanner. She pointed it at the alien equipment and tapped the Analyze button. The embassy erupted in chaos. Alarms blared as Concord defense systems detected the unauthorized electromagnetic probe and automatically triggered emergency protocols. Security officers rushed toward the children, their translators broadcasting containment warnings. Ambassador Zilvax sprinted from his office to find not an attack, but a terrified class of children and one small girl holding a tablet that had somehow tripped their most sensitive security measures. "Stop," he ordered his security team. "This is not an aggressive action." The chief security officer, Krental, was already examining Sofia's tablet rather than restraining her. His sensory appendages hovered over the device with what, in a human, might have been described as fascination. "Ambassador, this scanning technology, it's remarkable. The child was using it to analyze our quantum relay. The application appears to be a standard educational tool." Zilvax took the tablet gently from Sofia's trembling hands. "Your school created this for learning purposes?" he asked her. Sofia nodded, tears welling in her eyes. "It's for science class. I'm sorry if I broke a rule." The security team gathered around, examining the tablet's capabilities with growing disbelief. Their educational institutions develop custom analytical tools for children, Krental noted. The programming parameters are intuitive, adaptive. While the children were quickly escorted to a refreshment area with promises of alien-approved snacks to settle their nerves, Zilvax composed an urgent message to the fleet. Crucial cultural insight. Human education systematically embeds technological innovation at earliest developmental stages. Their children instinctively analyze, question, and reimagine technology as fundamental learning methodology. Hurricane-class indicators confirmed across all age demographics. Unfortunately, his nuanced cultural observation was transmitted simultaneously with the automated security alert triggered by Sofia's tablet. The embassy's defense systems had independently sent a high-priority warning about unauthorized technological probing of secured communication equipment. Fleet Commander Vax Moore received both messages within moments of each other. The conjunction seemed clear. Human children were deploying sophisticated scanning technology against Concorde systems, and the embassy was confirming hurricane-class technological aggression across all human age groups. The commander's appendages twitched with decisive purpose. 4 weeks of observation and mounting evidence required a proportional response, one that would demonstrate Concorde capabilities while making clear the consequences of continued technological aggression. "Target the Olympus Mons region of Mars," he ordered. "Precision kinetic strike only. No atmospheric dispersion, no collateral damage. We will show them we can reach them anywhere in their system without triggering their defenses." The order given, 16 tungsten rods accelerated from the Concorde fleet toward the Red Planet, each precisely calculated to impact within a predetermined pattern on Mars' largest mountain. A clear demonstration of Concorde reach and accuracy, and a warning against further technological curiosity. The impacts on Olympus Mons registered on every seismic detector across Earth and Mars. 16 perfect strikes creating a geometric pattern impossible to dismiss as natural occurrence. Within minutes, global defense networks went to maximum alert as military satellites reoriented toward the Concorde fleet, still holding position beyond Jupiter. "This is not a drill. I repeat, this is not a drill," General Wei announced to the hastily assembled United Nations Security Council emergency session. "The aliens have demonstrated offensive capability within our solar system." Screens displayed real-time footage from Mars orbiters showing the precision damage, each impact creating identical craters arranged in a perfect octagon with interconnecting lines. "They could have hit Earth," the Russian representative observed. "This was deliberate restraint. Or a warning shot," the American delegate countered. "The next one could be here." Dr. Elena Chirian rushed from her Pluto station to Geneva, fought through the chorus of military voices advocating immediate defensive posture. "They're terrified of us, not threatening us," she insisted, displaying comparative developmental timelines. The strike came immediately after an incident at the embassy involving a child with a scanning device. "You're saying they attacked Mars because a schoolgirl pointed a tablet at them?" The British representative's incredulity was evident. "I'm saying they perceive our technological adaptability as an existential threat," Elena replied. "They don't understand how integrated technology is in our society, even among children. From their perspective, they've been observing an impossibly fast-evolving species that just scanned their secure communications with a device given to a child." The debate raged for hours until the Secretary General made a controversial decision. Rather than a military response, Earth would demonstrate technological capability in a non-threatening manner. Within 6 hours, the prototype planetary defense system, secretly fast-tracked after the initial data leak from Trellbach, powered up around Earth. Originally designed as a meteorite deflection network, the system had been enhanced using principles reverse-engineered from Concorde technology. Near-Earth asteroid 2023 Dido, a small rocky body approximately 50 meters across, was selected as the demonstration target. Under normal circumstances, adjusting an asteroid's trajectory required months of planning. The new system locked onto the target and fired a precisely calibrated gravitational pulse. From his command vessel, Fleet Commander Vax Mora watched in stunned silence as the asteroid's trajectory changed by exactly 0.4 degrees, enough to demonstrate control without disrupting solar system orbital mechanics. The precision exceeded Concorde capabilities by a disturbing margin. More startling was the message that accompanied the demonstration, transmitted via an enhanced version of the Concorde's own quantum communication system. The message came in perfect high Concorde formal dialect, a language humans should have had no way of mastering in mere weeks. Honored representatives of the Galactic Concorde, the transmission began. "We acknowledge your demonstration on Mars and recognize it as a communication of concern rather than an act of aggression. We reciprocate with our own demonstration of capability, showing precise asteroid deflection technology that could protect both our worlds from natural threats." The message continued with 7 detailed proposals for scientific and cultural exchange, each carefully framed to address the Concorde's apparent concerns about human technological development. We understand your classification of our species reflects genuine concern about our developmental pace, the message concluded. We invite dialogue on how our adaptability might complement, rather than threaten, galactic stability. We await your response with optimistic anticipation. The seamless integration of Concorde diplomatic phrasing and cultural reference points was as alarming as the technology demonstration itself. The humans hadn't just improved Concorde technology, they had absorbed and adapted Concorde cultural and linguistic patterns with equal facility. They built the deflection system in 4 weeks. Vax Morris, second-in-command, whispered, and mastered our highest formal dialect. The commander stared at the asteroid's new trajectory, the implications sinking in. The containment protocol is inadequate, he admitted. We cannot contain a species that adapts faster than we can implement restrictions. He turned to his communications officer. Prepare a response. Inform them we are open to dialogue. Then, more quietly, to his second, and alert the council. Hurricane class was an underestimation. We need a new classification entirely. The International Space Station, hastily retrofitted to accommodate the different atmospheric needs of the Concorde delegation, became the unlikely venue for humanity's first formal galactic negotiation. Neutral territory, not Earth, not a Concorde vessel, seemed prudent given recent events. Ambassador Zilvax, now recognized by the Concorde Council as the foremost expert on human behavior, led a team of 5 delegates. Dr. Elena Chirian represented Earth alongside a carefully selected group of scientists, diplomats, and cultural specialists. The station's observation module, with Earth's blue curve filling one window and the star-filled blackness of space dominating the other, served as the negotiation chamber. Symbolic positioning, Elena realized, reminding both parties of what was at stake. We appreciate your willingness to engage in dialogue, she began, speaking in carefully practiced Concorde formal dialect. And we welcome the opportunity to address misunderstandings that have arisen between our peoples. Zilvax's scales shifted to a more relaxed blue hue. Your mastery of our language is unexpected. Our cultural anthropologists calculated it would require at least 6 standard cycles to achieve such fluency. Elena smiled. Our neural language acquisition systems benefit from adaptable pattern recognition, one of humanity's evolutionary advantages. Shen Liu, Earth's top xenobiologist, leaned forward, which brings us to the fundamental question. You view our adaptability as a threat, while we see it as our greatest strength. This appears to be the root of our misalignment. 3 days of intense discussions revealed the depth of the philosophical divide. What humans considered natural progress, the Concorde viewed as dangerous acceleration untethered from ethical constraints. You developed synthetic biology just because you could. Vexernal, the Concorde science director, asked incredulously during a discussion of biotechnology regulations. Of course, replied Dr. Amara Singh, Earth's leading geneticist. Why wouldn't we? The potential benefits for medicine alone justified the research, without considering the possible extinction-level risks to your entire biosphere. Vexer Nell's translator couldn't fully capture his tone, but his body language conveyed horror. We considered them, Dr. Singh countered. We implemented safeguards, international oversight committees, regulatory frameworks. We balanced risk against reward. Your species' definition of balanced appears fundamentally different from galactic consensus, Zilvax observed. You accept risk thresholds that most Concorde species would find unthinkable. The breakthrough came unexpectedly during the 4th day. Elena was explaining human educational philosophy when she noticed unusual attention from the aliens. From childhood, we encourage innovation, she explained. We teach our young to question assumptions, to experiment, to seek new solutions rather than perfect existing ones. This explains much, Zilvax said quietly. The Concord educational model prioritizes mastery of established knowledge. Innovation is the domain of specialists after decades of proven competence. Alina saw an opening. Perhaps there's a middle path. What if Earth accepted certain development restrictions in key technologies in exchange for full access to Concord knowledge and membership in the galactic community? The aliens requested an immediate recess, retreating to their designated module for private discussion. Their debate, though conducted beyond human hearing, was clearly heated based on the flashing stress colors visible through the module's viewport. They're terrified of accelerating our development even further, Ibrahim Okafor, Earth's chief diplomat, observed. But they're more terrified of what we might become without their guidance. When negotiations resumed, the Concord delegation appeared resolute though visibly tense. Your proposal presents unprecedented complications, Zilvax began. You are asking us to effectively accelerate a hurricane-class species development while hoping to guide that development along safer paths. And if you deny us? Alina asked quietly. We've already demonstrated our ability to reverse engineer and improve upon your technology independently. Would you prefer we continue that path without any moderating influence or galactic context? The ambassador's scales shifted through several colors before settling on a decision-indicating pattern. Zilvax has argued persuasively to our council using similar logic, he admitted. It is better to guide the hurricane than pretend we can prevent it entirely. By the 6th day, the framework for the historic Hurricane Accords began taking shape. Earth would accept development limitations in certain technologies, deemed particularly destabilizing, to galactic equilibrium. In exchange, humanity would gain provisional membership in the Galactic Concord with access to their knowledge repositories and trade networks. Both sides could claim victory. The Concord had established oversight of humanity's most dangerous potential innovations, while Earth had gained entry to a vast new frontier of knowledge and opportunity. The diplomatic fiction satisfied everyone's most pressing concerns, while leaving countless details to be negotiated in the coming years. As the final session concluded, Zilvax approached Alina privately. You understand, he said quietly, that many in the Concord still fear your species may eventually outpace even our ability to guide you. Alina smiled. And you understand that's precisely what makes us Hurricane class. 5 years after the Mars incident, the solar system hummed with unprecedented activity. Earth orbit had transformed from a sparse collection of satellites and a single space station to a bustling hub of construction and commerce. Concord vessels now regularly docked at the massive Unity station, the jewel of humanity's expanding space infrastructure. Dr. Elena Chirian, now serving as Earth's ambassador to the Concord Council, stood at the viewport of her office overlooking the construction of the newest interstellar vessel. The diplomatic Hurricane, named with humanity's characteristic blend of humor and defiance, represented something revolutionary. The first joint human Concord deep space exploration ship. The final phase of construction will complete ahead of schedule, Zilvax noted as he joined her at the window. In the years since first contact, the former ambassador had become Earth's permanent Concord liaison, his scales now comfortably maintaining the blue-green hue that indicated contentment most of the time. 3 months ahead of schedule, to be precise, Elena replied with a smile. The engineering teams found a way to integrate the gravitational manipulation systems more efficiently than projected. Zilvax made the trilling sound that humans had learned to recognize as resigned amusement. Of course they did. The Concord Council has stopped expressing surprise at human acceleration. They now factor it into all projections involving Earth initiatives. The changes extended far beyond Earth. The Proxima Centauri Research Station, jointly operated by 17 species under the Hurricane Accords framework, had become the galaxy's premier scientific installation. Human researchers working alongside Concord scientists had achieved breakthroughs that neither would have developed independently. The artificial gravity breakthrough alone justified everything, Zilvax observed. 2 years of human-led experiments accomplished what our theoretical projections suggested would take at least 2 centuries. What had begun as fearful monitoring of human development had evolved into eager collaboration. Other species discovered that proximity to human innovation accelerated their own progress, while human exposure to millennia of Concord knowledge provided crucial ethical and practical safeguards. The latest report from the Developmental Oversight Committee arrived this morning. Elena said, activating a holographic display. 17 joint ventures have been approved for accelerated development under the Hurricane Framework. The Hurricane Framework, the expanded version of the original Accords, had evolved into a galaxy-wide initiative for carefully managed technological acceleration. What had begun as a containment strategy for a dangerous species had transformed into a new approach to innovation itself. "There is something I've been authorized to share with you," Zilvac said, his tone becoming more formal. "The Council has identified 3 potentially Hurricane-class civilizations in sectors previously considered uninteresting." Elena turned from the viewport. "Others like us. Similar developmental patterns, though each with unique characteristics. One appears to have mastered biological engineering at an alarming rate. Another shows unprecedented quantum manipulation capabilities. And the Council wants our help in making contact," Elena guessed. Zilvax's scales shifted to the purple-blue pattern that humans had learned to recognize as indicating pride. "The Diplomatic Hurricane's first mission has been designated. A joint human Concord first contact team will approach these civilizations not to contain them, but to invite them into a framework similar to what we establish with Earth." The implications were profound. In 5 short years, humanity had gone from being classified as a galactic threat to becoming essential partners in the Concord's most sensitive diplomatic initiatives. That evening, as celebrations marking the 5th anniversary of the Hurricane Accords concluded, Zilvac submitted his final report before his scheduled retirement. After 6 centuries of diplomatic service, he had requested that Earth be his final posting, a request that had shocked the Council, but somehow seemed fitting. "We classified humans as Hurricane class because they reshape everything in their path with terrifying speed and force," he wrote. "Our mistake was seeing only destruction in this metaphor. On Earth, hurricanes redistribute energy and bring renewal to ecosystems. Humanity doesn't simply destroy and rebuild. They transform systems fundamentally, finding possibilities that our linear thinking missed for millennia." As his report reached the Concord Council, the Diplomatic Hurricane prepared for its maiden voyage. Its mission, led by both human and Concord explorers, represented a philosophical shift that neither civilization could have anticipated during those tense first days of contact. The Hurricane-class designation remained in the Concord classification system, but its meaning had evolved. No longer a warning label, it had become a beacon, a signal to look not for danger, but for transformative potential in the vast galactic community.